Coming up, delays at the Lynden Pinling International Airport today. Hear what caused the backup. And the Director of Labor speaks on possible job losses in the airline industry, so don't go anywhere. The Bahamas Tonight, the weekend edition, starts now.
Now in HD. ZNS Network presents The Bahamas Tonight. This portion of the news brought to you by BTC Everyday.
Good evening, everyone. I'm LaDawn Davis, and welcome to the Bahamas Tonight, the weekend edition. Thanks so much for tuning in. Topping the news, a glitch in air traffic telephone communication services locally and internationally affecting operations at the Lynden Pinling and the Miami International Airports this afternoon. Minister of Transport and Aviation Gladys Hannah Martin told our news team late this afternoon that airline departures were at a standstill from around 12 noon today. And while operations are back to normal at this hour, Hannah Martin gave these causes for the delay.
But there was a communication issue with Nassau Air Traffic Services and Miami Air Traffic Services, and the phone lines went down, and as a result, communication was impacted. I'm also advised that on the Miami side, there were some frequency issues. Now, whether they're connected is not clear. They may be independent and coincidental in terms of the happenings of what we experienced in Nassau. That matter is we're trying to get full information on that now to see what happened on the Miami end. But I'm advised that whatever happened in Miami also affected airports throughout Florida. So I'm not clear on what the issues are, but we know that on our end there was also the BTC issue.
Now, while the minister is unable to say what net losses were encountered at LPIA today, she spoke about the effects of the delays between the Bahamas and South Florida.
Aircraft was backed up on the ground. We had what we call saturation of international traffic. But I want to take the opportunity to commend everybody who's involved operationally at the airport, NAD, the air traffic controllers, civil aviation, the international carriers. All stakeholders have been exemplary in their response. The services are now back up, and I was told that initially when it began, aircraft was being lifted in 5-minute intervals. I believe it should be cleared by now, and I'm also advised that domestic traffic was not impacted.
Now to a growing dispute in the airline industry. Just yesterday, members of the Airport, Airline and Allied Workers Union expressed extreme displeasure after learning that some workers from American Eagle were terminated and 5 employees were fired from Nassau Flight Services. Well, tonight, the Director of Labor is setting the record straight on both matters with our CS Adderley.
This week, labor officials met with American Eagle's local general manager and the vice president of Caribbean operations to discuss possible redundancies said to be caused by the merger between American Airlines and U.S. Airways. Though members of the Airport, Airline and Allied Workers Union are claiming that 47 have been let go, Director of Labor Robert Farquharson says at this point they're unable to confirm the number of redundancies.
Just a couple of days ago, the company would have asked employees who wish to apply for the voluntary package to apply. They anticipate approximately, the company has about 82 employees here, and you probably that's American Eagle, and U.S. Airways has approximately 23 employees. After the merger occurs, there will be one airline operating, and so it is anticipated that some employees will take the voluntary package. The company has indicated that they do not want any employees to be made redundant. He has given us the assurance that they want to keep all of the employees, but once they make a determination how much employees have voluntarily accepted the package, then they will make a determination how many of the employees will be re-engaged.
Farquharson says he expects to hear back from the company sometime next week with those numbers. There is also tension between the Airport, Airline and Allied Workers Union and the management of Nassau Flight Services after the company reportedly terminated at least 3 of its employees back in November for an action the company called a jeopardy in aircraft safety. Though he has conciliated a number of meetings on the matter, Farquharson says this dispute has still not been resolved.
The president of the union, Mrs. Harding, Nellerine Harding, attempted to engage the Minister of Transport and Aviation to see if she could get involved in the matter to try and resolve the dispute. On yesterday, I'm advised that a number of employees would have begun some form of industrial action. The Honourable D. Shane Gibson, who's the Minister of Labour and National Insurance, in accordance with the Industrial Relations Act and acting in the best interest of the Bahamian public, has referred the matter to the Bahamas Industrial Tribunal. Aircraft safety is an essential service in the Bahamas. We need to make sure that the flying public is safe. And so once that matter has been referred to the Industrial Tribunal, we know for a fact that all industrial action must cease.
The Director of Labor is urging those workers not to withdraw their services, otherwise they could face termination by breaching the contract of their employment.
Because this is an essential service, the Industrial Tribunal will give this matter high priority, and we anticipate this matter to come before the tribunal at the earliest possible time so it can be resolved.
Meantime, the Labor Director maintains that in the case of redundancies, the government has put in place the unemployment benefit. Sia Scatterly, ZNS Network News.
Also, executive management of Scotiabank in talks with the government over pending job cuts, which are expected to conclude soon. Director of Labor Robert Farquharson revealing as much to our news team today. And this comes after reports surfaced earlier this week that layoffs are looming for the financial institution, leaving employees without a job as early as this weekend.
I expect an announcement to be made as early as Monday morning with any pending redundancies. I can say that last year, the management of Scotiabank met with the government and advised the government that their Caribbean operations, actually our global operations, have begun a process whereby they want to streamline operations, and that may have resulted in some closure of some of the banks in the Caribbean region. I can assure you that come early next week, a public announcement will be made both from the management of Scotiabank and the government of the Bahamas in regards to that.
Meantime, much priority is being given to the cost of electricity. Minister of the Environment Kenrick Dorset says the government is doing all it can to assist in reducing factors contributing to the power cost. Just recently, the amendment to the Electricity Act was passed in Parliament, seeking to relieve the electricity burden on thousands of consumers.
Once the regulations are passed, are for those persons who already have systems to register the systems, and those who are going to purchase new systems, obviously to make application for approval. So I think that exercise alone will enable us to understand the extent to which renewable energy technology has already been deployed throughout the Bahamas.
Now, Mr. Dorset says he is also pleased that Bahamians are adhering to the message of renewable energy.
As I visit Abaco and Exuma and other islands, I see a lot of renewable energy being utilized now. So part of the process is for us to understand what technology has already been deployed in terms of solar and or wind, and then I will be able to report to the country as to the extent to which we have already been able to penetrate a lot of renewable energy in our energy matrix. But certainly moving forward, we want to aggressively pursue that minimum target of 30% by the year 2030.
Also in the news, the Bahamas hosted a major security conference this week to promote regional cooperation and the exchange of information to help combat transnational organized crime and to enhance security throughout the region. The Caribbean Basin Coastal Surveillance and Maritime Security Conference was co-hosted by the Ministry of National Security and the Royal Bahamas Defense Force. It brought together delegates from Canada, the Cayman Islands, Colombia, the Dominican Republic, Barbados, Germany, and Mexico. Minister of National Security, the Honorable Dr. Bernard Nottage, provided an update on the country's major financial investment and capital development project in the Sandy Bottom Project. He said this initiative will ensure that the Defense Force is well equipped to provide effective maritime security. The acting commander of the Defense Force, Captain Tellis Bethel, also spoke on the modernization and decentralization process at the Defense Force. And coming up in the Bahamas tonight, Outstanding Teachers in the Public Service awarded. That story and more after the break.